First of all, I always thought that breast cancer was a white woman's disease. I didn't know that black women got breast cancer, and that was mainly because all the promotions featured white women. So I just thought, oh, black women don't get this. And then lo and behold, I was diagnosed with stage 3 advanced breast cancer. I thought after that I finished with the IV and the chemo that I was going to go home. I didn't know I had to take additional not over-the-counter, but prescription drugs. And I went, and it was quite expensive. And I thought to myself, okay, what do poor people do? How do women that look like me, that is less fortunate than I am, how do they make it? How do they find the money to pay for this prescription, take care of their families, cover all their finances? That must be so difficult for them. And then I was at home one morning feeling, terrible after chemotherapy treatment. Couldn't get off the bed. It was terrible. And I thought to myself, okay, I don't want any other woman that looks like me to have to go through this alone. So when I get better, I'm going to do something about this. That started the journey of me and the Olive Branch of Hope.
The Olive Branch of Hope's office is situated on Indigenous land. This is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. The Olive Branch of Hope gratefully acknowledges these Indigenous nations for their guardianship of this land. The Olive Branch of Hope also recognizes stolen people from across the world who have inhabited this land by force. Slavery prior to and including the transatlantic slave trade continuing through modern day human trafficking have brought Indigenous people from across the globe to care for this land. We acknowledge the truth of our Canadian history and commit ourselves to reconciliation, knowledge, and careful intention. I invite you to take a moment of silence. Feel free to use this moment for prayer, memory of a loved one, or to set an intention for your engagement in this space. Thank you for holding this moment of silence with me.
Thank you for holding this moment of silence with us. Thank you for honoring this space. Thank you for showing up and bringing all of your beauty and wisdom and questions and curiosity and drive and passion and everything that makes you who you are to this space. We are so thankful here at HERstory to bring you our second 30 days of HERstory. This is day 17. Can you believe that? We've been doing this for 17 days. We've been sharing the stage. You've seen interviewers from the Olive Branch of Hope. You've seen our partners like Miss J, the flight strategist. And we are so happy to be able to welcome to the stage so many amazing women who are willing to share their stories so that we can all learn from them and be inspired. Not only are we hearing their amazing stories, but altogether we are focused on promoting our nonprofit partner for 2023, the Olive Branch of Hope. And with our partner, we are raising awareness about a condition called lymphedema, which many women after breast cancer treatment find themselves living with this lifelong condition. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, what you need to know about lymphedema, and how you can help. But for right now, I'm going to welcome to the stage Miss Celia. Hello, madam.
Hello.
Now, do you ever do like the Celia cruise? Do you ever, go with Celia?
I do not. I used to love her because she was the only famous person that I knew that had my name. But I could never imitate her. She was too great. I couldn't do it.
One of her favorite sign-offs, she would say, forgive me, my English is not very good looking.
I should say the same, even though it's the only language I speak.
But she did it intentionally, right? So that was a part of her quirk and her humor that I really enjoyed about Madame Cruz. But yes. But we're not here to talk about that, Celia. We're here to talk about you, Celia. Tell us about you. Tell us about Learn for Fun 3000. Tell us about the amazing things that you're doing.
All right. Well, about me, I am Caribbean, of Caribbean heritage, born in Canada. I've lived here the majority of my life. I've gone back and forth to the continent, different parts, but mainly been focused here. I have two beautiful daughters. One is 28, one is 13, and that's my little business partner. I shouldn't say little because she's very much taller than me, but that's for another day. Um, we are in business doing Learn for Fun 3000, which is a mother-daughter team that specializes in teaching others about the African languages on the continent. And there are over 2,000 different African languages. So we've only scratched the surface right now. So that's what we do. We make African language coloring and picture books. We also do daily word of the days on our different social media platforms.
Yes. Now, you alluded to going back and forth between Canada and the continent. So I just want you to make clear. I know what you mean, but I want you to make
I
clear
know.
that you don't think the Caribbean is a continent, right?
I keep yeah, we're on a continent right now. The continent of Africa. I have to say that every time because throughout my life, or my later life, I guess, I always say like the continent, and you must know what that is. But I do have to specify the continent of Africa.
Yeah. And I learned from one of our sisters that we'll meet in another few days. She refers to Africa by its original name, Merita. Have you ever come across that term?
I have not. I have heard of Al-Kibalan, Al-Kabulan, but then I also found out that that was not one of the original names. I've thought it was for the past maybe 15 to 20 years, but it's not. So they didn't give me what the actual original name was. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's we are learning more, right?
Yes.
And that's all what you're about, right? That exploration and just having fun learning, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we really are. It's great.
Yeah. Give us one of the words of the day that you remember doing recently.
Well, I did this one with you because I know you like Bosa. I know you love it. So that is one. It's the name of a language as well as a culture or a tribe of people in South Africa. So it is Xhosa, which is Xosa.
Yeah. Now, which I know in the Caribbean as Zosa because Zosa is a carnival band. So that was my.
Okay.
That was
that's your association.
That was it. That's all I had. Right? Yes. And so that was us putting it into our terms that we understand. Everything is a party. But yeah, I was really happy to have met you and your amazing daughter and this dynamic duo that you guys have that's flourishing, and just seeing your production. I was really happy to finally get my hand on a few copies of your books and to share that wealth of knowledge with other young people. And looking forward to doing more to, share these languages and this connection, this reconnection, if you will, with our youth. And so tell me a little bit about how you chose to, go on this journey with Learn for Fun. Because you could have just explored it yourself. Like you didn't have to teach anybody else anything,
That's right.
Yeah. So why take this path?
It was actually a journey, a long journey. So it actually started I would say in 2003. 2003, 2004, my great bestest friend brought, I don't know if you remember the play Umoja to Toronto. So at that time, the only thing I knew about Africa or South Africa, and this was only 2004, that I really knew was like Nelson Mandela. So when I went to the play, I was just like, wow, wow, wow. I can't believe it. I didn't really know like Zulu. Like there were so many different languages. And when I first heard it, I was like, oh my goodness, I've never heard anything like this before. It's beautiful. So throughout that year, I started working with Umoja and, went on tour with them. So I heard them, like the cast speaking, and I was like, I really, really want to learn this so badly. So within that time, because we were so busy going back and forth, I learned like maybe 5 or 6 words, probably. So when they left, I said, okay, I am going to learn Zulu. Like I have to learn this. But there was nowhere. I could not find anywhere. I couldn't find it really online. I couldn't find anywhere in Toronto. The only places that I could find was if I went to South Africa and they would teach me how to speak Zulu. So I was like, what? So after a while, like I was just like, this is ridiculous. But I kind of gave it up, sort of. I kept going back and forth to South Africa, came back with Noktula, my daughter, in 2009, and still wanting to learn, but still didn't really find the medium. I did find some apps, but one of the apps that I was actually using, they went out of business. So fast forward to last year, and I was like, you know what? I've always been interested in learning language. I want to create apps. I want to do all of these things. We just decided, okay, since you like Zulu, I like Zulu, let's try and do some African language books. The reason why we also hesitated is, like I said, I am of Caribbean background. I am not from the continent of Africa. So I didn't feel like it was my place to teach other people a language or languages that I didn't know, or I didn't feel like I had the knowledge to do it. But then I was like, the internet is here for everyone. I can help, like even give somebody like a couple of dollars. They can give me translations. I can use it for the book, and I can try and teach people on this side and myself and my daughter. So that is the long and short of it. That's where Learn for Fun came about.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I was not born in France. I have no French connections. I teach French. I was not born in Spain. I have no Spanish connections. I teach Spanish.
That's right.
Like
Yes.
We all learn and then share our learnings. And I think one of the things that I really respect about what you and Noktula are doing is that for us born on this side of the world, there's so much searching, right? There's so much, and like not feeling sure and secure, and you can't rattle off your genealogy for 12 and 15 generations and all of these things. And so to at least have a point of connection, exactly, I find to be really powerful and really helpful. And I think that, for you to do it and take charge again, and we've heard this story over and over with visionary women who lead in business, visionary women who lead in nonprofit. They identified a problem. Many times it's a problem we have ourselves.
Right.
We can't find the solution that we need. And rightly, we think to ourselves, if I need this, that means somebody else needs it as well.
Right.
And then we set our sights on providing it for ourselves and for others. Exactly. And because we are understanding of the need, it puts us in a better position to actually be the one to fulfill it, right?
Exactly.
Now, did you, when you were Noktula's age, 13, did you think you'd be doing this with your life?
Absolutely not. No way. The only thing that I could really think about, like when I was 13, I wanted to travel. I wanted to leave Canada and just be all over the place. That's the only thing. So I knew I wanted to be away and to be around, like going to different places. And funny enough, at that age, the continent of Africa was absolutely not on my radar. Like that was the time, and that was the unfortunate time when I grew up. Like You never heard of somebody picking themselves up and moving to Africa.
Right.
Like I remember, I think somebody, I believe they were moving from Toronto and I think they went to Ghana or something. And I remember my mom like, why would you move to Africa? Like she was just like, and she wasn't like anti-Africa, but even myself and my auntie was just like, that's weird. Why would you do that? Because we still had that messed up mentality.
Well, that's
back
how we
then.
were being fed, right? We were always
Exactly.
being fed, famine and war and, ravishing and all of these things. I
Yep.
mean, imagine my surprise when I found out that Accra and Ghana had skyscrapers. I was like, what? Right?
That's it. Like even in some of our videos that we put out daily, we place the language and where it's spoken. We always try and show like there's no fields or bushes. We are showing downtown of all of these cities, all of them, because I still feel even in this day and age, people have this mentality of when they think of the continent of Africa, it's still with the fly on the eyelash. It's
Yeah,
still
yeah,
there. Like, and I'm just like, please, we have to get rid of that.
yeah.
Or they don't think about it at all, which I have seen on social media. People ask to name 5 countries on the continent of Africa,
Okay.
and people are like, oh, Germany.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know geography.
Right.
5 countries.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it makes me sad because I'm just like, how do and it's not other people, it's
Right.
my people.
Yeah. Yes. Usually, right.
Yes.
That's what's particularly unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I mean, even the images of rural parts of Africa, we're not taught to see these as beautiful, traditional, indigenous, ways of
Exactly.
thinking and interacting with the land and learning and loving. We're not taught to see it with a sense of affinity. And
Nope.
so at least having, this connection point gives us a start, right? It gives
Exactly.
us a start. Now, you talked about being a child and knowing that you wanted to travel.
Yes.
And you started by talking about your travels, right?
Yes.
And then now we know that travel bug was there from a really young age. And that would have fueled a lot of decisions that you would have made with your life so that you would have the opportunity, or I should say, take the opportunity when it presented itself to be able to travel and experience these other places. And, from such a young age, sometimes, not everybody gets a chance to kind of connect where I am now with the thoughts I had as a child. So I want to ask you, given that you're experiencing something that you thought of as a child, what would you say is the importance of vision?
The importance of vision is, and I've been realizing this probably over the past year and a half, if it's almost like a plan. If you don't see what path you want to go in, or if you don't have a plan for it, you just seem to be walking endlessly. Yes, you're living your life, but it's like an endless walk with no destination. Vision, even when you envision what you want, a dream that you have, you create this direction for yourself and you create the path for yourself to head in that direction towards what you want. So I feel like, yes, I had those visions possibly when I was younger. I got sidetracked a little bit, but then I've come back on the path without like think, and possibly if I had maintained those visions, I would have gotten to the place where I wanted to be sooner. But I do enjoy the journey most times, most parts. But vision, it's so important that we even sit down quietly and think about the path that we want to go on and visualize it, see it in our minds, take it in, and just like, this is where I'd like to be. This is where I'd like to be happy. And a lot of people I find, I ask them, like, where do you see yourself? Like, not the where do you see yourself in 5 years, but what will make you happy? What can you visualize making yourself happy? And a lot of people don't want to answer it because they're just like, why am I don't want to waste my time to make myself, even in that moment, be happy when I'm just going to be disappointed and not get to that place. So it's very, very vision. is very important.
Yeah. Now you talk about disappointment in not reaching where we expect to be, and you talk about veering off of the path. Do you find that even the things that you experienced when you were off path are still helpful where you are now?
Absolutely. Like I say off path, but it's possible that that is the path.
Yeah.
And it has to be the path because this is where I am now. So the things that I learned off the path that I would say that I should be on, those some of those things I will say because I got off the path, my daughter's here.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like this is not necessarily what my mother envisioned for me or anybody else,
Yeah.
but I would never ever not walk this path again.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that I went off that path.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. In dealing with higher learning and talking to parents, we have this conversation a lot when their adult children change their major,
mhm.
right? And I sent them to do this, especially for Caribbean people, right? Like you put so much energy and time and effort into sending this one child over in a way, and then they get there and they're learning about themselves and they're discovering themselves, and then they realize, oh, wait a minute, I don't actually want to do the thing I said I wanted to do when I was 18, right? Because we know ourselves so well at that point, right? And so, really helping coach parents through the sense of, it may not look like what you thought as a parent. It may not even
Exactly.
look like what your child thought for him or herself. However, this is all about the learning of self and the embracing of self and the expression of self. We figure out ourselves as we go through it, right?
And
And
mistakes are important to make
yeah,
even then, like they're absolutely necessary.
absolutely. And then sometimes life offers us these gifts, right? It's like you mentioned your children. For someone else, it is like, for me, I would say I didn't change my major because I wasn't
Mhm.
about to have my parents blowing up on the phone while this was the Skype was new then, right? So having a fit on Skype, right? I wasn't about to have that. So I finished the degree knowing that I wasn't going to use it, right?
Ooh.
And it was in that transition that so many doors opened for me, and I found
Mm.
myself in places that I wouldn't have expected, and it was
Mhm.
off path, right? Off the original path. But I'm all for taking out the pencil and erasing the first path and drawing
Yes,
one in, right?
that's right.
Yes,
It absolutely.
absolutely. No, we talk about, as Caribbean people, the voice of our mothers, of our parents, in making decisions for us. We know that we tend to, again, as Caribbean people, have strong voices in the lives of our children. But what about in our own lives? Have you, in your travels, in your experiences, in your growth, experienced at any point in time the silencing of your voice or diminishing of your voice?
This is a very interesting question, and I had struggled to I struggle kind of to answer it because I'm thinking I don't feel like I've ever had my voice silenced, or I always felt like I had a voice. The person who silenced my voice was myself. So that's one thing. Like I always felt like, nobody needs to hear what I have to say. Nobody cares to hear what I have to say. Like it was like an overbearing thought throughout my whole life. Not that anybody said that, but I always took it on myself. So when I think about when was my voice silenced or when was I quieted, I did it to myself. And then there is now I feel like I am raising my voice to even speak on us learning about African languages. And then I feel like my voice or our voice is being like silenced on social media because
Mhm.
I'm not doing the things that, not just me, but I feel like I'm trying to shout, like, here, come on, guys, look at this, let's learn about, the continent. I'm not only my content, but other African creators or people who, are trying to teach other people about things like that. And it's almost like you're like, no, 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 we don't really want to talk about this right now. We prefer to do something else. Right. So right now, I guess I would feel the most like silenced, in the sense where now I've actually tried to speak and my voice is kind of silenced. Not really, but this is where I feel the most.
I mean, you're on social media and you're with your daughter and you're teaching us words, and to me, I think it's fun, and I think you guys are hilarious, and I love your dynamic. I love that you still have that mommy daughter thing. I love when you play the bloopers, because it shows like, you guys are real people, right? And, you might have the polished final video, but, there was some side eye going on from 13-year-old attitude,
Yes. It's great.
And I love that. But I mean, in reality, people like you and me and the content that we're putting out there, it's not the fancy Ferrari that we rented and couldn't pay our actual rent that month for the rental. We're not shaking our butts. So, like, that's not right. And so when you see what people are gravitating towards and you're not putting that out there, I do understand, right? That sense of silencing, or at least lack of appreciation and lack of understanding, right? But you keep doing what you're doing.
You too.
Yeah.
You too.
Right?
Yeah. But I feel like for both of us, it's almost like we can't stop. Like, even if it's 7 people who are like, yes, I like it, it makes me smile, I have to do it for the 7 people. You have to do it for the 50,000 people. You have to do it. Like, you have to continue. We can't not do this anymore.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel but yeah, it's a little frustrating, but it's okay. I'm happy doing what I'm doing with my daughter.
And you're elevating her voice.
Exactly.
And you're amplifying her voice, and I think that that's a really beautiful thing. And now with these voices that we have, we come from storytelling backgrounds, right? Mm-hmm. In a calypso that don't talk about somebody's business, right? Right? We know social commentary, biting, but witty, and we know all of these things. We come from these storytelling backgrounds, and we know that we inherited that ability to tell stories and to pass down stories that are meant to inspire and make us think and be connected. But when it comes to telling our own stories, the stories of our lives, right? Why do you think, or do you think it's important that we are the ones that tell our version of our own story?
Absolutely. I feel like we are the only ones who should, because we know it intrinsically. No one else knows, or no one else could actually tell the truth about our story. So absolutely, we have to tell our stories in our own ways. And even if it may offend anybody else, it's still our stories, and it's important for people who are interested, or even if you're not interested, it's important for us to express ourselves and to let other people hear us. It's very important.
In as many languages as we can.
Absolutely.
100%, for sure. And when we do give ourselves permission to use our voices, to tell our stories, it also encourages us ourselves, because we're saying it and then we're hearing it again, And I had a really interesting conversation with a team member, and she was asking, when it comes to affirmations, do you speak first and then believe it after? Or do you believe it first and then speak it after? And I said both. It's a cycle. There's some days I do believe that I'm enough, and I say it, and it clicks. And then there are other days I have to say it first, and I have to say it again, and I have to say it again. I have to shout it and have to whisper it. You know?
Repetition is
Yes.
key. Then it becomes
Absolutely.
you.
Yes.
Because there are exactly what you're saying. There are those days when you even look in the mirror and you're just like, oh, absolutely not. You are not the one. And then you say it. You say it. You look within yourself and say it over and over again. By the time you leave the mirror, nobody can talk to you. Nobody.
Exactly.
So, absolutely.
Yes. And that's, you know, to your point, we must be the one to tell our stories, not just in terms of, you know, what will people remember about us, but how hearing our own stories gives us that inspiration to keep going, right? Because, like you said just now, we have to keep going for the handful, for the seven, for the few,
That's
right?
right.
Because we don't know who in that seven is a bright spark, you know, that will take the seed that's planted and really flourish and amplify the message in ways that we couldn't on our own, right? So I definitely echo that. And for every visionary woman, you know, you talked about it before as well, right? Like knowing that there's more to do. There's always more to do. I was talking to another nonprofit executive director, and we were just like, you know, people want us to settle, they want us to slow down and, you know, all these things, but all we feel is the burden of the more that has to be done, right?
That's right. There's, like you said, there's so much more to do. There's so much more, I guess, to conquer. There's so much more to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So there, there's, you cannot stop.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, when we talk about being able to identify what our vision is in this life, giving ourselves permission to speak up and allow our voices to be heard, and taking control of of the version of our story that is delivered to the world. At Her Story, we think that when we put these three things together, they naturally fall together and give us the opportunity to not experience a moment of victory, but to
Mhm.
live a life of victory. So, if you could paint a picture for me, when you hear the word victory, what comes to mind?
For me in my life right now, when I think of victory, I think of peace.
Mhm.
So if I'm at a place, and obviously it's just all about me, but I'm at a place of just peaceful thoughts, I think about, oh, the rent or the mortgage is due or whatever, and I have peace, or my child is happy, or people around me are happy. That is my peace. I have completed my tasks, which I know will never be completed, and I don't necessarily want them ever to be completed because I always want to keep growing. But the victory would be just the fact that I have attained the peace. I have built everything that I want around me to the place where I can like sit back and view my empire and feel peaceful.
Yes,
That's where I would feel victorious.
absolutely.
And in me being able, and that's another piece, in me being able to be peaceful and happy and I have everything around me, I feel like then I can be at that place where I could help other people as well. Because honestly, right now, I have all of these ideas of things that I'd like to do for and with other people. Like I want to be able to, build a school. I want to create this. I want to do that. But I'm like, at this point right now, I can't. When I get to where I'd like to be, then I can start doing those kind of things. And that will give me even more peace and help other people feel the same peace as me. So that's why I'm saying I would never be able, or I would never necessarily want to stop the task or what I want or what I need to do, because even when I get to that personal place of peace or my personal victory, there's still more to do.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Personal peace. My goodness. Sisters, after we grind and push and, dedicate and, do all of these things to see the success that we're working towards, right? Whether that's in our business or in our nonprofit or within ourselves. After all of that, the question is, at what point will we allow ourselves to bask in this peace, to cultivate this peace, to spread this peace, right? Yeah.
That is based on my morning like devotions or my morning meditations. That's supposed to be now. Like we're supposed to live in the now. We're supposed to feel the peace now. And on some level, yes, I feel peace when I wake up because I feel like I am on the path that I'm meant to be on that I had the vision of helping people, helping myself.
Yeah.
However, there are times that that piece gets like ripped to shreds because I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do that. But the fact is, now I've learned that I can actually come back to the
Yeah.
place of peace,
Yes.
to the place of quiet, to the place of like, okay, everything is going to be okay. Everything is okay. Right now, you're sitting on your chair. Nobody's hurting you. Your stomach may be full or not. You have water available to you. So you are peaceful. You're good. You can help people. If somebody asks you for help, you can help people, not on the level that you want to, but you're on the path to doing that.
Absolutely.
So
yes, personal peace, my friends. If we can hold space like we did at the beginning, if we can hold space for ourselves and give ourselves, right, the acknowledgement that we deserve, and just be able to connect with the space that we're in at this moment, we would realize there might be a long list of things to do. There might be a long list of things that aren't going right, but I promise the list of things that are going right are so much longer, right?
yes, absolutely.
So much longer, right? And so let's commit to enjoying the things on that list. And with that, I want to talk about some work that I've been enjoying cerebrally because, there's enough of a challenge that, I can stick my teeth into it, but really enjoying because it's fulfilling. Really enjoying because it takes a terrible situation that I've been in, having experienced breast cancer at a very young age, and gives me the opportunity now to, like you said, help myself and help others. And in doing that, we at HERstory for 2023, we've partnered up with the Olive Branch of Hope, as we mentioned before. The Olive Branch of Hope has been creating and holding sacred space for women of African ancestry who have been diagnosed with, think they might be diagnosed with, living way beyond, or supporting another family member with breast cancer. And this was started by two immigrant women many, many years ago, looking around for something they just couldn't find for themselves, just like you, Celia. And they made the decision to go make it, create it. And 22 years later, here we are benefiting from that work. And in being able to connect with this organization, one of the powerful things that I've experienced personally, right? So this is not somebody told me something, right? Personally, is that sense of, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't need to know what's going to happen. I know who has my back. I know who's in my corner. And I think that that's something really powerful that, we tend to miss in different aspects of our lives. It's certainly an atmosphere that we create at HERstory. And within the sisterhood, yes, we're pushing and we're doing and we're driving and we're doing all of these things. But within the sisterhood, within the cocoon, within the sanctum, as we like to call it, it's all about us just being ourselves, being here, and being here for one another. And that spirit is so true within the organization. It's a small organization that punches way above its weight. And, I'm here to let everyone know about the work that's being done. I'm letting you know about the workshops. I'm letting you know about the support groups. And I'm also letting you know that this year we are telling everyone about lymphedema. Lymphedema occurs when, during intervention for cancer, lymph nodes are removed. Lymph nodes might be removed because cancer cells have been identified as trying to get from the main site in your breast to other parts of your body. And it travels through the lymphatic system, and it catches it there for a little while and is trying to hold on to it so that it doesn't go any further. And so if you're able to catch it at that point, usually identified as stage 3, then those lymph nodes can be removed. Unfortunately, it means then that the fluid that normally would pass through our bodies now doesn't know where to go, right? Because the catchment system isn't working. So just think about, pipes in a building, right? And all of a sudden, a pipe is disconnected somewhere, right? The water is just going to keep doing what water does, flow and flow and flow, right? And if that ends up in somebody's apartment, then we know what that looks like, right? Yep. So think about that. If our bodies, our buildings and the piping system isn't working the same way, and it just ends up in your muscles instead, it causes a lot of swelling, it causes a lot of pain, and that congestion needs to be manually worked out by a professional, right? And then once you have that congestion released, you get that water out, then you're able to maintain your body using specialized medical devices like compression sleeves, for example. And so we want to be able to support as many women as possible who are now living with lymphedema, who have to replace their medical devices often, who need the support of a medical professional, who may be locked out of the resources that are available here, may not have access to insurance, may not have access to OHIP or any of the things that are provided in Canada that are supposed to make healthcare free. And so, we want to make sure that those sisters are still taken care of and given what they need. And let's say you have all of that, but you got to pay for this gas out here, and you got to buy these vegetables, like, this is a different world we're in right now. And so it's able to offer that help and that relief right here, right now, for women who, simple tasks become very challenging. Texting, typing, using your mouse, being able to lift a baby, being able to comb your hair, sitting in a hot tub, sitting in a sauna, going for a polar dip if you want to be a part of that. I don't, but let's say you want to be a part of that. For any of these things, it's particularly challenging. And so we want everyone to know not only about lymphedema, but that you can go right now to HerStory.ca and find there. We have specialized merch that is co-branded with the Olive Branch of Hope and Her Story. And we also have our regular merch there in the store. You can purchase anything there. You can make a direct donation to the organization that goes straight to them, however you want to show up and however you want to support. When you make a donation, we give you free stuff, okay? So depending on how much you donate, you might even get my book, Embracing the Valley, for free, right? So give wholeheartedly, give freely. We have free stuff for you as a thank you when you do that, and all proceeds goes to the organization. So please show off your merch, let people ask you questions and be like, oh, you don't know about the Olive Branch of Hope? Well, let me tell you about the Olive Branch of Hope. This is what they're doing, right? And join with us, band with us, elevate this voice of the Olive Branch of Hope with us, and help us to propagate this message that we are here for the unseen, the unheard, the traditionally ignored, the traditionally conceived to be stronger than the other. Let us stand up for Black women and say, my dear, I see you. You are beautiful. I love you. I love that you are here, and I am here to walk with you. And that's what we are doing all year this year. Celia, before we go, do you have maybe a word of inspiration, a last note that you can gift our visionary women with before we go?
I know everyone says this, but this does it for me every time, and I think it will do it for other people. Just keep going. When you feel like you can't do it anymore, just keep going. That's it. That's all.
Absolutely. Just keep going. You're so right. There are times when getting that one foot in front of the other, oh my gosh, it
Yep.
takes all the energy you have. But just keep going, sisters. Just keep going. Celia, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. This was great. This was a big step for me because, like I said, I've always like this. So I'm so glad that you did this interview. You were fantastic. You were amazing. You made me feel so comfortable. So thank you for having me.
Yes, please. And you continue to be amazing and to share your light and to work with that stalwart daughter that you have there. She is going to do amazing things because mommy is giving her such a firm footing. And we're so happy to have had you with us tonight. Our sisters, go slay your day.
Bye.
First of all, I always thought that breast cancer was a white woman's disease. I didn't know that black women got breast cancer, and that was mainly because all the promotions featured white women. So I just thought, oh, black women don't get this. And then, lo and behold, I was diagnosed with stage 3 advanced breast cancer. I thought after that I finished with the IV and the chemo that I was going to go home. I didn't know I had to take additional over-the-counter, not over-the-counter, but prescription drugs. And I went, and it was quite expensive. And I thought to myself, okay, what do poor people do? How do women that look like me, that is less fortunate than I am, how do they make it? How do they find the money to pay for this prescription, take care of their families, cover all their finances? That must be so difficult for them. And then I was at home one morning feeling, terrible after chemotherapy treatment. Couldn't get off the bed. It was terrible. And I thought to myself, okay, I don't want any other woman that looks like me to have to go through this alone. So when I get better, I'm going to do something about this. That started the journey of me and the Olive Branch of Hope.